Hello and welcome back to another episode of Foxy No-Tail's Minecraft Adventures here in another redstone testing world, and today we're testing mob spawning. And the reason for that is because on a recent episode of the Handcraft server that I was recording, we were having a bit of a discussion in the chat, and the guy that's running the server said that the reason we're playing on hard difficulty is because we want as many mobs to spawn as possible because the spawn rates are very low on Bedrock Edition. I didn't think it made a difference whether we're on easy or normal or hard as to how many mobs will spawn. So I thought I'd check it out. I thought I'd invent something to test this. So what we've got is two contraptions, and they look complicated, but they're not that complicated really. This is the first one that we're going to be using. This determines how quickly mobs spawn, and this one over here will determine how many different types of mobs spawn in a certain amount of time. So this one times how long it takes the mobs to reach the mob cap. That one will count how many mobs of each type spawn within a certain time limit. So, how does this work? We've got a bunch of command blocks here. These are the main ones, and each one of these tests for a particular type of entity. So this particular command block checks to see if there are any zombies within a 128 block radius. If it finds one, it will output to this comparator how many zombies it's found. So if it finds 1, it will give a signal strength of 1. If it finds 10, it will give a signal strength of 10. We can then string all of these command blocks together that do exactly the same thing, and we use this set of comparators here in subtract mode to actually add that all together. So if we've got 5 zombies and 5 skeletons, that will give us a total output of 10, which then comes to this redstone line, which runs into a note block and a light so we can see when it's finished, and it also runs into this dropper. Now this dropper is going to be dropping items into this chest, and this is how we're going to count how long it takes. And once we hit 12 mobs, which seems to be the mob cap for me, once this line reaches a signal strength of 12, it's going to stop the dropper and we'll be able to see how many items are in the chest. And by testing this on different difficulties of easy, normal and hard, we'll be able to see how many items are in the chest of each type and work out how many mobs are spawning, or how quickly mobs are spawning for each of the different difficulties. So we'll start. It might sound complicated, but it'll probably seem a lot simpler when we start. So when I flick this lever, it's going to go to nighttime. We've got this repeater here set to this command block, which is basically just changing the difficulty to easy. This one's normal, this one's hard, so we'll just move the repeater for each of the different tests. And yeah, all these other things just kill anything that's in the area and make sure that there's nothing else can spawn. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to flick the lever. That's going to start this clock. That's going to start the dispenser dispensing items into the chest. And you can already see we're detecting all sorts of things. We're detecting zombies, zombie villagers, skeletons, and spiders at the moment. And once that redstone lamp comes on and the note block goes on, this dispenser will stop. And that means that we can count how many items we've got. So our signal strength is coming round. We're at 11, 12. There we go. It went off. The light's on. So we can turn this off. We can check how many there are, and there are 37. So we're on easy mode, and it took 37 items to reach a signal strength of 12. So that's basically for 12 mobs to spawn. So yeah, so that's our first test. So we'll do 3 of each on each difficulty, and we'll compare. We'll get an average. So I'm going to do that again. I've reset the items. I've put them back in the dispenser. I've flicked the lever again, and we'll just wait again. We'll see how long it takes this time. There we go, we've reached the end. Let's flick the system off, and this time it took 46, which you'll notice is quite a few more than last time. So let's pop this sign, change this sign, so we've got 37, now we've got 46. Now, interestingly, I have been testing this before I've been doing this video, and if I log out and log back in again, the spawn rates go faster. The longer we run this thing for, the slower everything goes, and I don't know why. So let's do test number 3. Okay, so now we've got a problem. I've been waiting and waiting and waiting, and we're just not getting 12 mobs. It's been stuck on 10 mobs, and there is a reason for this, but I'm not 100% sure why it works. So let's just turn this thing off. Let's set it back to daylight. It'll kill all the mobs, and I'm just going to explain quickly what I'm doing when I flick that lever. When I flick that lever on, it sets it time to midnight. It also kills anything that's not the player within a 2048 block radius. So any passive animals will get killed. And then it'll do that again. It'll kill everything again after a tick because entities get dropped. So let's say it kills a cow. It will drop the leather. So then this one will kill the leather, or it will get rid of the entity of the leather. So the whole world is completely empty after it's run that. So that's when I turn it on. Everything gets killed before it starts and it sets the time to midnight. When I turn it off again, it does the same sort of thing. It sets it to peaceful, it sets it to noon, so the sun's at the top of the sky, and it will kill everything except the player, and then all of the entities that get dropped again. So you would think that the world at this point would be completely empty apart from anything that spawns in the meantime. But the problem is, for some reason, unless you log out and log back in again, none of that seems to work. It seems to build up like a buffer. So then every time we start this thing, it takes longer and longer and longer and longer and longer to reach the mob cap, which is a bit of a problem. So if I mean, we already had like over 2 stacks in the chest from the last test we did, and we didn't reach the end. But can you see the lines taking ages and ages and ages to come round again because things aren't spawning very quickly. Now I'm going to turn it off. I'm going to reset this. I'm going to put those back into there, and I'm going to log out and log back in again. There we go. So I'm logging back in. I haven't done anything. I haven't touched anything. I've done nothing at all. There's a chicken running about over there, and there's a couple of sheep, but that doesn't matter. I'm going to flick this lever now, and it'll go really quickly. We'll get the mobs really quickly this time. Can you see that signal strength's coming round already? There we go. It's nearly there. We're at 10. And come on, 11 and 12. There we go. So it went off very quickly. So what was that? 19. 19 this time. So we started on 37, then 46, and now we're down to 19 because I started it again. Now, if I press the lever again, it'll be longer than 19. If I do it again, it'll be longer than that and longer than that. So the only way we can really fairly test this is to keep logging out and logging in between each test. So I'm going to get rid of that. I'm going to start again on 19. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to do 3 tests of each type, and I'm going to give you the results at the end. And after each test, I'm going to log out and log back in again. Otherwise, this is going to take forever. So I'll see you guys in a second once I've done all the tests. Okay, so I've done 8 tests for each difficulty. On easy, the average number of items it took to get to the mob cap was 18. On normal, it was 16. And on hard, it was 14 and a half. So it does seem that mobs are spawning more quickly depending on how hard the difficulty is. To give you an idea of how fast that is, it took 10 seconds on average to reach the mob cap on easy. It took 9.6 seconds on average to reach the mob cap on normal, and 8.7 seconds on average to reach the mob cap on hard. So there really isn't a great deal in it. And I think maybe more testing would show that they're pretty much the same all round, really. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do the same set of tests again, but without logging out of the game each time, so that we get that buffer in effect, so that we can really get a gauge of how long this thing's actually taking. Because you're never going to play the game and constantly log out all of the time. We want to see how fast mobs are spawning and reaching the mob caps once we've actually been playing for a little while. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to reduce this output line here down to 6 instead of 12, so that the alarm will go off, or it will stop counting once we reach 6 mobs rather than 12, just so that it doesn't take too long once that buffer's full. Okay, so the last test I did, this is, bearing in mind we're on easy difficulty, and before on easy difficulty we were getting 19, 15, the most blocks it took to actually get to the mob cap was 25, and that was when we had the mob cap set at 12. We've now got the mob cap set at only 6 mobs, and it's taken that many items to reach the mob cap. So we can't do this test, but we do need to investigate what's happening, because the game obviously thinks that we have reached the mob cap, which is why it's not spawning new mobs. But we can see quite clearly that there aren't any mobs. So where are the mobs that are taking up the mob cap? So we already know from the previous video I did that mobs in Bedrock Edition don't despawn. So even if you go over 128 blocks away from them, they'll disappear from view and they'll disappear from your screen. But when you come back to the area, they'll still be there. They are kept in memory within the chunk that they are in. So I can go miles and miles and miles and miles and miles away, and when I go back to that guy, he's still going to be there. It doesn't matter how far you go away, he will still be there. He's stored in memory. So is this affecting our mob cap? Well, I think it must do. Even though, you know, there's nothing here. We've got kill commands on these command blocks. We're killing the mobs that are there. The world must be loading more mobs somewhere, or it's not wiping out its memory when we're staying in the chunk. So what I think might be an interesting test, if we get rid of this guy, is instead of logging out, we'll go miles away from the area, we'll teleport away, and we'll teleport back, which will force these chunks to reload, and we'll see if it speeds up again. So at the moment, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and a bit stacks it took to actually reach 6 on the mob cap. Let's just see how quickly it goes if we do it now. We've stayed in the area. So staying in the area, let's see how long it takes us to read the mob cap. We did fly over there, so we have technically unloaded and reloaded the chunks, even though I think they stayed loaded. So that was quick again. So that was back down to 13. So it seems like something we've done has reset that buffer. But if I just stay stationary on the spot here and keep running it, it will get slower and slower and slower. Okay, some weird stuff's going on. So since putting that zombie in there and then flying over there, we're getting a consistent amount each time now. It's not going up and up and up and up and up. The delay's not getting longer and longer and longer. So it could be that because I started this brand new world and I haven't moved from this spot here, that by traveling to other ones, I've fixed it somehow. Maybe we needed to load more chunks in the world. I've no idea why that is, but it seems to be more consistent now. So I'm going to have to keep testing that again. All right, I'm going to load some mobs into the game to demonstrate something else now. This is something else to do with this memory buffer, or mobs being stored in memory and not despawning. And it's quite a useful thing to know, although I don't know what we could do with it at the time being. So I've loaded some mobs in this chunk here. I'm going to move across a little bit and I'm going to load some more mobs into other chunks. So I'm going to go this way and let's see if we can get some more mobs to load round us here. There we go. Look, we're getting some few more mobs this way. Let's get some more mobs over this way. And you can see things are dying as I'm moving about. This is what I'm going to explain now in a second. So we've got a few mobs over here and we've got a few mobs over there. So let's go back to our little area over here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to run a kill command, which should kill all of the entities that are loaded in the game. So let's do /kill @E. And that will do all passive mobs. You can see what it's killed because it's come up in the chat. So it's killed all of those things. Now, it hasn't actually killed all of those things because it's only killed things in our visible radius, or the area that we can actually see. If we now move back into those chunks where we loaded those mobs were in memory, they've been killed, but they don't actually die until we go back to the chunks where they spawned. So you can see all of those things dying, and now we're getting new things spawning in there. So again, if I do that /kill E here, so we kill all of the things that were here, we get some new things spawned. And then as we travel back, we can see the chunks that were loaded before that have things in memory. The things in memory are reloading in and then dying because we gave them a kill command. So this shows us that mobs are staying in memory even after they should have been wiped from the game. So it's not impossible that the only way to get chunks to reset the mob count in that local area would be to either exit from the game or to unload those chunks completely and then come back to them at a later date. But now we've done that, I seem to have fixed the issue slightly, so I'm going to do a bunch more tests and see if we can get these speeds to look any different from what we did originally when we were logging out of the game each time. Again, it's taken us an absolutely massive amount of time to reach only 6 mobs in the local area. So there's obviously a bug somewhere that's stopping mobs from reaching the mob cap, and we can't see that there are any here. The kill command should have killed anything that was in the other areas, so we're going to have to go round and try and load all of the chunks that we had recently loaded mobs in order to get our mob cap back, which isn't ideal. The only other way to do it, like I said before, is to log out of the game, which will unload all of those chunks and unload all of those mobs from memory. Right, I've been around. I should have unloaded most of the chunks that we've just been flying around in, so there shouldn't be many mobs stuck in memory anywhere now. So if I flick this, it should be quite quick again this time. I would say maybe, 12 to 15 stacks, and there we go. That's already done. So there we go. Only 7 that time because we've been round and we've unloaded all of the mobs from the memory in the local chunk radius. So this goes to prove that mobs that are still in memory but in unloaded chunks are still attributing to the mob cap, which means that AFK mob farms and things like that are going to be a real problem in Bedrock Edition. However, enough of that now. We're going to move on to this other device just to see what sort of rates we get per mob. And the way this works is very similar to the last one. This horrible mess here is exactly the same as that horrible mess there. We've got a choice of different difficulties from easy, normal and hard, and each one of these basically just every time it finds a zombie, for instance, it will send a signal to kill any zombies that are in the area, and it will also fire an item into this chest. The only issue with this is if there are 2 zombies, it will kill them both, but we'll only get 1 item. But it should give us some sort of visual indication of how often particular mobs are spawning and which are the most common mobs to spawn. Okay, so let's start the test. We flick the switch, it'll go to night, set the level to easy, and as you can see, the redstone clock is flashing away. And what's happening now is these blocks on the inside, the command blocks on the inside, are detecting the mobs. For instance, this one's detecting any zombies that are in the area. If it detects a zombie, it will give an output to the comparator, which will flash. It will then give an output into this command block, which will kill any zombies that are in the area. And at the same time as that, it will pop one item into this chest here. So like I said, if there are 2 zombies, we'll only get 1 item, but we'll get a good idea of how many mobs are spawning. So there we go. It's gone to daytime. Let's have a see what we've got. So let's just flick that off there. We'll have to reset the system after this. So zombies, at 33 zombies in that time. And just to give you an idea of how long that was just over 4 stacks. So that's about 2.5 minutes. So in 2.5 minutes, we got 33 zombies. We had 5 zombie villagers. We had 40 creepers, 50 skeletons, 4 endermen, 35 spiders, 3 witches, and 6 slimes. So that's not bad in 2.5 minutes to get all of those mobs spawning. So if you do have a mob spawner, then the rate shouldn't be that bad if you're killing the things pretty regularly, as long as there aren't mobs loaded in unloaded chunks taking up the mob cap. So providing you log out and log back in again when you're at your spawner and there's nothing else loaded, you should get pretty good rates. Now, let's do that again a couple more times, and then we'll do it on normal and hard as well and see if there's a difference. Okay, so I've just finished the first set of tests on the easy mode on this system, and similar sort of things happening as to what we was experiencing over here, where the more tests that I run, the less mobs we get and the lower the mob cap is. And I think I've figured out the reason for it now. I think I know why, when you stay in the area and mobs are loading, why the mob caps gets less and less and less. And I'm going to see if we can visually see it, but I don't know if we'll be able to. But if I flick this thing on, you'll see when the mobs start to spawn, some of them wander off before they get killed and they disappear out of the area. Particularly, not so much on this one, but definitely on this one. If we turn this one on, because the mobs aren't getting killed, as they're loading in, some of them just wander off and they disappear outside of your visual range, which means they're going into chunks that you can't see. So once they've wandered off into another chunk, they stay loaded in the memory, but they're going to unload from your visual game. So they're not going to wander back in again. So they're going to reduce the mob cap. So the more you stay in an area, the more mobs that load. See, do you see how that witch disappeared then? So if I go this way, she's still there. She's wandered off a little bit. So she's not loaded anymore. So she's taking up the mob cap, but she's not there. She's wandered back in. So she can still apparently move when she's in an unloaded chunk. So I think this is what's causing the issue. The mobs are wandering about, they're disappearing out of range, and that's lowering the mob cap, which means that we're not reaching the full potential. So it's not until you go into those areas and then get rid of them and then come back to your original one that you're going to get the mob cap back. Or when you log out of the game and log back in again, it will wipe out those areas of the memory and then your mob cap's back up to 100% again. But just to give you an example of where we were at, when I ran this for 3 times on easy. On the first time we ran it, we got 176 mobs altogether. The second time we got 169 mobs altogether. And the third time we got 147 mobs altogether. So we were losing sort of 10 to 20 mobs per time we run it because of the mob cap. Really, I think that's all we can put it down to. But I'm going to switch it over to normal now. I'm going to reset it. I'm going to run those as well and see if we get more mobs spawning in different difficulties. Right then, all of the tests are done, and here are the results. On easy, we got on average 164 mobs per, however many stacks. The stacks actually worked out to be 1 minute and 39 seconds, which is exactly 99 seconds. So for easy, in 99 seconds, we got 164 mobs, which is equivalent of 1.7 mobs per second. In normal, we got 187 mobs on average in 99 seconds, which equals 1.9 mobs per second. And in hard, we got on average 209 mobs in 99 seconds, which is 2.1 mobs every second that are spawning. So it does go to show that both of our tests have shown that hard does spawn more mobs. But apparently, according to the wiki, there shouldn't be any difference. So there you go. The proof is in the pudding. The proof is in the testing. On hard, I broke my thigh, we get more mobs. It's not many, though. It's not many. It's only, 0.4 of a mob, so not even half a mob per second faster on hard than it is on easy. So it's not a massive difference, but I suppose over time it'll make up. And if you were interested, these are the percentages that we got. So for every mob that spawns, this is what I've worked out to be the percentages. You've got a 25% chance it's going to be a zombie or a zombie villager, a 25% chance it's going to be a skeleton, 20% chance it's going to be a creeper, 20% chance it's going to be a spider, 2% chance it's going to be a witch, 3% chance it's going to be a slime, and a 3% chance it's going to be an enderman. And that's from the results. So this is basically from counting these up, working out what the averages were compared to how many drops we got all together. And that's what I've come out at. So I have no idea whether that's right or wrong, but that's what my testing has said. So what have we learned today? Today we've learned that the game has a funny memory issue where you have to log out of the game to clear the memory of mobs that are laying dormant in other chunks. Even though you haven't travelled to those chunks, mobs still manage to get themselves stored in there. We've learnt that we can unload the chunks by doing the kill command and then setting it to peaceful and then going around the area. So I'll do that now just to show you. We do kill/entity and then obviously it's daytime and peaceful, so no mobs can spawn, and I can travel around all the loaded chunks and or unloaded chunks and make sure all the mobs are dying to clear the mob cap, or I can log out and do it that way. So there's two ways we can solve this. It is going to work for mob farms, providing that you've cleared the mob cap before you start it. It seems to be okay. And yeah, mobs tend to wander off apparently. So that's what we've learned. We've learned that on hard mode, we get more mobs spawning than we do on normal and easy. We get more on normal than we do on easy. So there we go. And there's one more thing I want to try, which is to go up in the sky and build a platform 128 blocks above here and see if we get the same mob cap issue that we were getting down here. So I'm going to try and do that now. So what I've done is I've cloned my first testing machine up to here, up in the sky, and I've made a little platform that if I'm standing on this piston here, so I can reach the lever and the chest, I'm exactly 32 blocks away from the edge of that thing, so hopefully we'll see things spawning on there. So let's just give it a quick go and make sure things do spawn on there. And let's hope that they do and they're not elsewhere in the world, because we're high enough up. We're 152 blocks in the sky, so we're well over 128 blocks in the air. Did that work? We're on easy, but nothing's spawning. Whoa, nothing's spawning. Nothing at all. Well, that's not very good. I've extended that platform a little bit, but still nothing. I'm going to move it on to normal, and let's see if we get anything spawning. So I haven't been in these chunks yet. I've only just loaded them up by flying up here, but I flew over here in peaceful mode, so nothing should have spawned in these chunks below us. What I'm going to do is I'm going to leave this going. I'm going to log out. I'm going to log back in again and see if anything spawns then. So I'm logging out, and I'm logging straight back in again. And let's see, does anything spawn now that I've logged out and in again? The chunks are reloading. Nothing. Let's try kill everything again. I see, it's killed a lot of things. And now it's finding things. So now things are spawning. But they're not spawn. It's only found a zombie and a spider. Yeah, so it is seeing stuff up there. Right. What I've done is I've just changed these so that these command blocks, so that these will search in a 512 block radius instead of just 128. And now you can see it's finding skeletons, because we can see that in the chat, but there are no skeletons up here. So things are still spawning down there, even though we're not close enough for them to spawn. So unlike Java Edition, when we're over 128 blocks away, things are still spawning. So I'm going to guess if we go down here, we're going to see a bunch of skeletons. There we go, look. So all these mobs are here, filling up the mob cap. So we can't build a mob spawner in the sky and hope that nothing spawns, because it doesn't matter how high you are above them, they're still going to spawn, which is a bit of a shame. Now, what we're going to try now is I'm going to come back up to the top up here. I'm going to do the kill command, and I'm going to see if everything down there dies when I go down there. So let's do the kill command. So these things died, and a lot of other things it says have died, but it's still seeing stuff on our counters. If I go down here now, yeah, they died even though we weren't able to see them because we're in the same chunk. So more stuff spawning down here. So this is interesting. It's very interesting. It doesn't matter how high you are and how far you are away, mobs will still spawn in the same chunks as you, below or above you. So the only way we're going to get around this, to have a decent mob spawner, is to create a void and just have an island floating above the void. So let's try that. Okay, so I've got a big 200 by 200 block hole in the floor, so that's going straight to the void. And roughly in the center of that, we are above it. And we've got another grass plane up here, and you can see we've already got a chicken spawning. So I'm going to do the kill command before we do anything else, if I can remember how to do it. And I'm just going to go around and make sure that there's nothing. Yeah, so it hasn't killed anything. Right, let's turn it to night now and see if we get anything spawning up here. So we should be starting to get mobs up here. So we're on normal. There we go. We've got a skeleton, spider, creeper. But it's not much, is it? It's not much at all. So these things, I need to reset again, actually, because I had to destroy them. So let's put all these back on 512 and see what happened. Right, we can see we've got a couple of bits up there. Not much. It is saying that we've reached 6 mobs. Let's put this back on 12, what we had it on originally, and see if we still if we can take the mob cap. But we're not getting many mobs. We're not getting many at all, which is a little bit worrying. In fact, I'm going to get rid of that grass platform and see if we can still count mobs. There we go. That grass platform's gone now. They should have all fallen into the void. So it shouldn't be able to find anything now. So all of these lights should go off. So it's not detecting any mobs at all now, which is good. So the chat's disappeared. It's not detecting any mobs. So that means there aren't any underground that we can see. Let's bump the radius of this up to, let's say, 5,000. See if this can find any mobs at all. Right, I've put those all up to 5,000. And we're still not getting anything. So let's just have a quick fly around. Let's go towards the edge over here. So if I go towards the edge, we can see I'm now getting close enough for things to start spawning on there. So as I go back again, do they disappear? Does it keep finding them? No, it can still see them. It can still see them, even though I should now be far enough away that they've gone into memory. So I'm going to go back that way a bit. But it's still seeing those things, even though they should technically be back in memory now. So you can still see them, which is good. So let's turn it off and on again. We issue our kill command. If we put it back on again, can it still see them? Or have they actually gone? They have gone. It can't see them anymore, but they shouldn't have died. They should still be in memory until we load those chunks again. And now we're getting a whole group of different mobs coming through from over there now. Let's put that grass back and see if we get things on it now. So there we go. There's our grass patch now. Let's see if we get things spawning on there. We know there's nothing else anywhere else, so we should get the full amount of mobs spawning on there, but we're not. We're getting 4 creepers, a spider, and a skeleton. So what's eating up the mob cap? What's stopping these things spawning? Why have we got 4 mobs? We've only got 4, 5 now. What is causing that? So it is going up slowly, but it is very, very slow. Much slower than it was down on the ground. So height, maybe the higher you are, maybe the less mobs we get is potentially something here. So let's try something else. Let's get rid of these guys. Goodbye. Let's get rid of that grass. There we go. And let's build that grass again downstairs at block 0. So that's below us. So we should have grass down there. Now let's see what the spawn rates are like. Are we going to get more things now? Got a few spiders. We shouldn't be able to get anything else from anywhere else because we should be far enough away. Not much is spawning, so having a void doesn't help us either. So back to the drawing board. What have we learned today? We've learned that if you play in hard or normal mode, that is slightly faster than playing on easy mode, but not a great deal in terms of mob spawning. We've learned that mobs in unloaded chunks do contribute to the mob cap, and the mob cap does seem to be limited to around about 9 to 12 mobs, which isn't very good at once, unless you've got an efficient killing system like this demonstrated, and then you get quite a lot of mobs in quite a quick amount of time. So if you've got a good way of spawning mobs and killing mobs, you should be able to create quite a good mob farm. But that's it from me. I hope you enjoyed this video and I hope you found it useful. If you did like it, please do leave a like on the video, and if you haven't subscribed already, please do, and hopefully I'll see you all in the next one. Bye! Thank you for watching my video. I hope you enjoyed it. Here's another one you might like, and if you don't fancy that one, why don't you go to my channel page and see what else there is. There you can find all of my videos and playlists so you can watch a video whenever you want. And don't forget, you can also subscribe to get notified whenever I release a new video so you never miss out on anything.